Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game tape.
Donuts.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Oh, hey, buddy. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Put your name on it, says Coach Herman Edwards. My man. You're a headliner, Joe Derosa, at Joe Derosa Comedy. Uh-huh. You are, is he okay on his mic? Am I too loud? Is he too little? Say something, Joe.
I'm waiting for you to do the thing. I didn't want to jump in, too presumptuous.
All right, don't make a big deal out of it. I don't want to be presumptuous. I like how Joe acts like he's all magnanimous with his vocal cords,
Joe Derosa is a headliner in his own right, and when I come to the East Coast, Joe Derosa is my opening act. Much like on the West Coast and the middle of the country, Ryan Sickler opens for me, even though he's a headliner. It's good to have him. I'm very lucky.
It's great to be here, man.
And this is the first New York Mohr Stories since, I believe, Jeremy Guthrie. I don't know who my last Mohr Story. I think it was Patrice. My last Mohr Stories in New York was Patrice O'Neill.
Wow.
Wow.
I know, man. I know. It still kills me, man. It
Kills
still
me.
kills me, dude. That he's. I can't believe that Patrice isn't around. You know what I mean? I still can't fucking believe it. After all, I mean, not after all this time. It hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough that I'm still like. that I'm almost surprised that I still haven't digested it as much as I thought I would have at this point. You know what I mean?
He is, when you talk about like eternal life.
Yeah.
Not to get trippy, but I don't mean this trippy. I keep, when I look, like I still haven't taken him out of my phone.
Right.
Have you?
No.
And every time I look at it, I go, I should call. Oh, I can't. He has died. There is this weird. It's not real that he's gone.
That's what I mean.
And I've never felt that with any other person's death in my life.
The only other person I felt that with, and I don't know this guy, was Michael Jackson. That's the only other person that was so iconic to me that when he died, I'm like, he's not dead. He's not dead. But I knew Patrice, and it's just...
Michael Jackson?
What? What?
I just get Victor DeRosa walking around his Manhattan apartment going, I'm calling Mike.
No, I don't mean it like that.
It's Halloween. There's a Party City costume commercial on. They're playing Thriller. I'm going to call Mike and break his balls. Hey, he must be getting a little residual on that Party City Thriller commercial.
When Michael Jackson died...
You don't think that's weird that that the Michael Jackson death isn't real to you? A guy that was dead inside for about 30 years before he actually died?
Here's how I mean it. When Michael Jackson died, Attell said... It's like
Boogly.
It's
hey. That's how I felt when Selena died.
Did you?
No. That's really it's really how I felt when somebody funny that I could have inserted there.
I know. I got you. Sometimes the references aren't there, No, when Michael Jackson died, Attell goes, it's like somebody saying there's no more vanilla. He goes, it's just one of those things that's just so part of life that it's weird to think that you can't imagine that he's not there and part of it and just around. And on a personal level, out of everybody I've ever known that's passed, Patrice is the one guy where I feel like that with, where I'm like, I just can't believe he's just not around. Like, it's just like such a presence. You know what I mean?
I'll take heat for this, but with Michael Jackson in real life, he was such like a ghoul.
Yeah.
Like he was kind of like a goblin that a part of me was almost, it's like an evil spirit. Like who's going to drive this thing away finally?
Right.
So when he died, it was like, okay, everybody's safe.
Well, he was not...
Cat Williams is the only comic, especially comic of color, that had the balls to stand up on one of his comedy specials and just crush Michael Jackson.
What'd he say?
Chris
Chris Rock crushed him pretty good.
He crushed the fans that go, yay, touch kids, but off the wall was kind of hype. But like, what's his Cat Pack all day, baby. Cat Williams was like, "You nasty mother effer, you walking around with your face smelling like little boys' booty holes. Don't you like to climb trees? No, motherfucker, I'm grown. I climb trees." He goes, "You know what I got?" He goes, "I don't like silk sheets. I don't drink Anisette. But you know what? I got all that shit in my bedroom because the girls I have sex with like all that shit." What's Michael got? A motherfucking Ferris wheel in his front yard? Dressing up like Peter Pan? You nasty. And he just kept going. And the audience was like, "I'm not so sure about this." And then they started going, "Oh." And then Kat then yelled at the audience and goes, "Let me tell you something. If somebody says something about you for 20 years, that shit is true. Whitney Houston has smoked her kneecaps off. Bitch is a crackhead." It was great. It was really, Kat was good. My wife didn't understand a word he was saying. She goes, "What's happening?" Literally, she said, not what is he saying. She said, "What's happening?" Like we were getting a live feed from another country. Because she didn't speak the language.
Cat Williams is it's just a different thing.
It is very urban, and if you're white, because you and I hang out with comics, and we've seen all stripes.
Right.
So even Patrice, what I loved about Patrice, and I said this earlier when Kevin Ryder was on the podcast, I think it was him, but Patrice somehow was so inclusive. To call a white guy the N-word, affectionately. Me and DeRosa, this nigga, pointing to you and saying it about you, and you're like, oh my God, there was no boundary. It was so inclusive that what he used, Patrice wasn't these guys well, I'm black, I can say it, you're white, you can't say it, he can say it, I can't. Patrice would just call you that word. Right. Because that was his word of affection in his innermost click. Yeah. So when he dropped it on you, you were like, "Oh my God!" It was almost it was like a little reward.
Yeah, it was. I remember once I was at a barbecue at his house. It was the first time he invited me to one of his cookouts, and it got to the 9 o'clock hour. We'd been there since fucking 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was 9 p.m. and I was playing dominoes with a bunch of dudes. And Patrice walked out, and he looked at me, and he goes, "Joe DeRosa is the last white man standing. I like that shit. I like that shit." And, he was so, endearing to me that I was the only white guy left. When the party turned into, all right, we're going to play dominoes now and drink. And
Joe's smoking Newports. Yeah. He switched to Captain Morgan and grape soda. Joe's, completely in.
Dude.
But the thing that Patrice didn't realize was the overwhelming sadness. The reason you were still there was you had no place to go. Just an overwhelming cloud of sadness. And you were like, "I'll just stay here. Everyone's accepting me and having a good time."
Yeah, it was the 4th of July. I had nowhere to go, dude. Sitting there. I learned some new things, some new cultural things.
You just came from your therapist?
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
Not really, because we got deep today, dude.
Really?
We got real deep today.
Why?
Because I got things I'm sorting out.
But don't you go every week?
Yeah, but I just started. I swore off therapy for many, many years because of something I saw in a Woody Allen movie, and I stopped going. And I just now I'm going back and going, I need to do this. I have things I need to sort out, Do you go?
I don't, but I'll go to meetings and I go to mass, and that helps me a lot.
Mass helps you?
Oh, yeah. It's weird. Whenever I go to mass, it's almost like the homily was created just for the week that I just had. It's very bizarre. It's really weird when I go to mass and I'm if I'm dealing with stuff with my family, and then the whole homily is about in Luke it says, and they'll say a sentence that's exactly what I'm going through. Right. It's very weird how it works out that way.
Do you go every Sunday?
No.
How many?
I used to go almost every Sunday, but when my youngest boy, when Meredith was a baby, I could just bring the baby because he'd sleep. But at 18 months, it's like owning a monkey. He's just climbing and pushing and pulling and shoving. And so you can't have an 18-month-old in a pew.
Right.
Where it's let's bow our heads in the silence of our hearts and rag da. He's giving shout outs. And
that's funny.
And then the priest goes, "Last baby standing." I like that.
I like that shit.
So how many times have you been to this therapist?
Today was my third or fourth session. Fresh,
Third or fourth.
Fresh, baby.
Usually people don't lose count when it's under 5. Usually it's like 32, 31.
It was my third today, but I wanted to say third or fourth, so it sounded like I was making more progress than I am.
So the first one's like that meet and greet, like you broad stroke it. The second one, you broad stroke it and you drop a couple particulars. The third therapy session's like, my mom breastfed me too long, and I think that's why I like guys. Do you have to say it in that voice, too? Yell it out like a... My mom. You got Tourette's. Yo, don't hold it in. Dave Van Heimer is our sound guy, holding it down. He's on Twitter at... what is it?
Complete My Song.
At Complete My Song. He's our sound guy here. He's the lifesaver. He got to us through Ming, who's a Smodcast guy. So you are sort of like our... do you work for Smodcast, too?
I freelance.
You freelance for Smodcast. So still got a toe in the Kevin Smith water. Big ups to the podfather, Kevin Smith. And Dave Van Heimer has saved my balls. Otherwise, there'd be no podcast for everybody listening while I was in New York. So, yeah, when you're in therapy, and don't hold your laughs in, Dave. It's kind of like important that people hear that it's funny to people other than Joe and I. I like that in therapy you go, my mother, like you speaking that weird yelling monotone.
Yeah, like it's Tourette's or something. Like it's just blaring out of me, and I can't. During that Brian Scalaro.
When my father spanked me bare bottom, I got erections.
Did you ever hear that Brian Scalaro bit where he goes, my dad used to sneeze so hard he would let secrets out?
That must be a new tag, because when I saw Scalaro, he said he would change the channel on the television.
Yeah, it was that. It was.
And he does the best fake sneeze I've ever heard in my life.
Here we go.
I can't even do
it. Here we go. You do that sneeze, you go, Rima, I'm gay. Rima, I only have one ball. Rima. That sneezing bit could be the funniest bit I've ever heard ever in comedy. It's that I can't remember. I can never remember how the noise goes until I hear it and I go, oh yeah, that's how he does it. That fake sneeze noise is the funniest. He says like a brija. Oh God. Anyway, so I actually jumped in with both feet the first session. I actually went right in, and she's like, what's bugging you? And I was like, A, B, C. Let's figure this shit out, please. And I won't tell you all of them, but I will tell you that the primary one was my crippling fear of death. That was a big one for me.
Oh, why?
Horrified of dying.
That could be an entire podcast, but I don't want to go the Goldman route and get into your therapy with me as de facto therapist. Yeah. But briefly, you must really love life to not want to leave it.
I want to live forever.
You know who else does?
Who?
All those kids from Fame.
You almost just did MASH. You almost. Went,
Never a doubt. I had that ball. I was driving the lane like Mello, 2-on-1. There's no way that wasn't going in.
Oh, my Mello,
There's no way.
man.
There was no way that was rimming out, bro. I had it. You just gotta have faith.
You almost slipped into MASH for a second, dude.
I think they're the first three. Here's Fame. MASH. Wait.
See?
Well, now I can't remember.
It sounds very similar.
ESPN. Joe's therapist. This guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah, so,
You're afraid of death, and I hope your therapist said you really can't get around it. What you can do is prolong it by eating well and exercising and staying away from Billy Hayes when he's angry.
She gave me a wonderful cock. She gave me a wonderful piece of advice. I videotaped Billy Hayes standing in front of Gotham singing TV show themes replaced with the word cock.
And now,
for 10 minutes one night.
For those of you listening, Billy Hayes is a friend of ours who's put in some work for an organization, maybe we could say. And now he's legit, but he's not on. He's off. Put it this way: you cannot get in touch with him, and if he's in touch with you, not going to be a good day for you. A friend of ours who says cock incessantly. If he calls you, he just goes cock, 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 cock. So I don't want people to be like, how do we find this guy on Twitter? What the fuck, Twitter? Twitcock.
He sent me a picture from when we were at that Greek restaurant the other night.